live on Facebook and YouTube.
Good morning, everyone. All right, so if you're watching this on YouTube right now, this is just like a live for my podcast. It isn't like edited content, so it's not scripted. It's raw. And if you're on Facebook right now, make sure you click follow. If you're on YouTube, make sure you click subscribe. And if you're on Instagram, you're probably already following me, or else you wouldn't be seeing this. James, are we live on Instagram yet?
We are
All
live.
right, cool. So today I want to talk about something that was brought up in a meeting, talking to Jenny down in Florida, in DeLand, one of my locations. And we're talking about like as a leader, you get exhausted. And it's like you're trying to do all these things to motivate your team and inspire them. And this is a quote I got from Dan Martell. And he said, "Be a lighthouse, not a tugboat." And so when I told her that, she was like, "Wow, I like that." And I haven't used that quote in a while. And when you're a leader of a salon, any business for that matter, you feel the need to always motivate your team and go out there and like pull them across the finish line. And it gets exhausting. Like that works for a couple years. That works for maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 years. But after years and years and years of building up stylists and having them leave and then dealing with people, leaving on maternity leave and never coming back to the salon and then building someone's book and then going to a suite, it gets exhausting. And then it's like you have classes for people and you show up as the leader and then you go out there and you just keep on putting your blood, sweat, and tears. And that's what you should be doing as a leader. But there's an easier way of doing that. And that's just being a lighthouse, leading by example, just being the type of person that you need to be and that you expect them to be. Like no one's gonna like participate in the salon like you do as the owner. At least they shouldn't, because your standards should be so high. Your level of participation should be so high because it's your salon. It's your baby. But you should be there for them to be a guiding light. And that means the way you conduct yourself behind the chair, the consultations you have, how you walk your client to the front, how you get them coffee, how you take care of the salon, how you sweep the floor. You're the example of what it is to be the best stylist on your team. And if you do that day in and day out, and you show up for them and you're honest with them and you tell them, because no one's perfect, and you tell them, when you messed up, you tell them how they can show up better. And you have this or about you where you're just a lighthouse. And the reference for that, if you guys aren't really familiar with lighthouses, all you guys should be, is the lighthouse just sits on the shore and guides the boats with a nice, bright, shiny light. And the tugboat goes out there, hooks up to the boat, and you pull them ashore when boats break down. And unfortunately, a lot of us feel the need to be a tugboat. And I think that having the mindset of a lighthouse makes your job as a leader a lot easier, and you don't take things as personal because you're giving the responsibility of your team to show up for themselves, and they have to show up in order to really feel fulfilled. I think in this industry, there's so many people out there who expect to be busy and expect their salon owner just to hand them clients. And yeah, when you work in a commission salon or you're paid hourly, like there's a certain dynamic that the salon owner has to have about them in terms of filling your books and the marketing and the Google ads and the Facebook ads and the meta ads and teaching you how to farm your own clients, giving you the skills, but then you have to go take action. And so I think what happens is as owners, we just we're also at fault too because we expect our team to know everything. Like typically if you're watching this right now, you're investing in your education, you're investing your time. You may not have paid me for coaching, but you're taking time out of your day to watch this and learn. And so a lot of the stylists don't do that. They may watch like a highlighting video or haircut video, but very rarely do they have the mindset of going out there and learning how to build their career, learning how to market better, learning the language of marketing, learning how to conduct themselves more professionally. And you've put the time in as an owner. You've either put the time in through experience and you've done trial and error. You put the time in a coaching program or learning courses or reading books. Whatever you did, you're educated to be a business owner. At least I hope you are. And so a lot of times we expect our team to know what we know when they never did what we did. And so that's your job as the owner, is to be that guiding light and pour into them. And as long as you are doing that, and as long as you're doing that for your whole team, because what happens is when you do become that tugboat, you go out there and you grab that one stylist who's lagging behind. The other ones who are doing phenomenal, you neglect them. And what begins to happen is they start resenting you, start resenting the salon, and then they move on to greener pastures. So it's important that you understand that you could save your whole entire team just by being the example and by being the lighthouse. And so I don't got to beat this up too much more than that. You guys get the metaphor there. So James, we're going to kick off into some Q&A,
Yeah.
and today's more of like a leadership call. But if you guys are enjoying some of the leadership stuff we talk about, there is a whole entire plethora of information in the Level Up Academy. And you can DM me, hey, Nick, I need to become a better leader. I enjoyed that thing you said about the lighthouse and tugboat and all the other shit. I want to see what that program is about. Just DM me on Instagram or email me, nick@nickmirabella.com, and we can get into a conversation to see if that's a good fit for you. And if you love information, and let's say you're not in a position right now to be, you know, hiring somebody or paying for anything because you just opened the salon and money's tight, this podcast is on nickmirabella.com. There's a blog on there. There's YouTube channel, my Instagram. There's a lot of information out there that would help support you that won't cost you anything but your time. So either you time collapse your journey by paying for it, paying a mentor, paying a coach, paying somebody to teach you from their mistakes and help you get from point A to point B faster, or you learn the long way, which there's no right or wrong way. It's just your journey that you're on, and you can learn everything, and you won't time collapse your journey, but you will make it a lot less painful. So, James, if there's any questions right now in the comments or the chats, let me know.
How often do you communicate those values with your team on a weekly basis?
All right. So, when it comes to communicating with your team, I want people to start thinking of their salon or their team from a paternal standpoint, like a parent. When you have a baby, it takes a lot more nurturing. It eats a lot more times throughout the day. You're changing the diaper. You need you need a lot more attention to that baby to make sure it survives. That's the same thing when it comes to your junior stylist, your assistants, your people who are new to the industry. Then you have, and that would be your weekly, your daily huddles, right? You have with them. And then when you get to a certain level of experience, you poured into your team, they went through your internal training. That time horizon of meetings and instilling your core values in them, that time horizon might go to once a month, every 2 months, once a quarter. And once you hire and you have your hiring process dialed in and you have like core values established and you hire people based on their vision, their core values, their hunger, and their character, you have to do less of that instilling the core values because you're hiring them with the innate values already in there. And it's more or less refining their people skills, teaching them how to communicate better, teaching them how to cut hair better and color hair better. And so if you're really focused a lot on like getting your team to show up the right way and being just good people, then your hiring process is broken and you really got to you really have to dial that in. And so I have a core values identifier that I use. I have 3 questions I ask, a series of questions that I ask. It is, what experiences do you want to have in life? What kind of person do you need to become to make those experiences possible? And then how are you going to help other people make their experiences possible too? And based on that question alone, I learn a lot about my hire. And then I ask, name 3 people you admire and why. And I just started doing this recently, and I use this example often. Victoria, she's on our team. Hopefully, she's watching. Shout out to Victoria if you are watching, but you're probably in the salon. And her answer was her mom, her dad, and another person at her salon she worked at, and it all revolved around working hard. Now, she doesn't like working Saturdays, so I'm gonna have to talk to her about that. It's summertime though, and I get it. And but she does work hard, right? She asks the right questions. She shows up. She's never late. And that answer, that was one of the first times I asked that question during an interview. It reflected her values, like how she shows up. And so this is something I added to my coaching program and how I run my interview process, and then something I added to my salons as well. And if you're struggling with hiring the right people because you're struggling to get people to show up with the values that your salon has, let me ask you first, can you clearly identify what those values are, what's important to you? It's not gonna be too far from you as a person either. Like, your salon's a reflection of you personally, and so mine are family, integrity, hard work, teamwork, passion, and so it's a matter of what's important to you, and then you let that trickle into your salon. Now, if you already have a team established, the cool thing you could do is you host a meeting with everybody, and you could, if you want the core values identifier sheet, DM me the word core values, I'll send it over to you, and you could print this out and have your whole team collectively do it, and then you narrow it down by asking a series of questions and pitting one value against the other, and you get to each person's top 3. And you can get to their top 1, and you would actually find out what your salon's core values are for the whole salon. And it shouldn't be too far off from where yours are at if you've never done it before. That's a great exercise I've done with my salon in the past, and it helped me become a better leader because I know what's important to them. And then it allows you to coach people on your team. You can be like, "Hey, Jen, remember you said teamwork was important to you? Did that change? Like something happened because I noticed like you've been leaving early, you haven't been helping out the team." And then you can use that to not attack the person and what they're doing. You're just asking about the core value that was once important to them that they're not showing anymore. So that's why core values is important. James, if there's another question, guys, drop the question in the comments. James is going to read them off for us.
Yeah, I have. I feel like I'm lowering my standards just to keep the peace. What should I do?
Lower your standards to keep the peace in your salon.
Yeah.
You, if you're in the program, watch yesterday's call. It's called the 5 dysfunctions of a salon team. And so you have to establish trust and you have to be able to have hard conversations with your team. Trust is important because when you have that hard conversation, they have to trust that it's coming from a good place. And once you start avoiding these conversations that you should be having with your team members who aren't showing up the way you both agreed on when they joined the team, it deteriorates the whole entire culture in the salon. And so you just have to look yourself in the mirror and realize that you're not an employee anymore. You're an owner. And with being an owner comes the responsibility of being a leader. And that is followed up with hard conversations sometimes. And so I'll tell you something I told one of my coaching clients, Tiff. Tiff, shout out to you if you're watching. Stop being a little bitch. Have that hard conversation. In our mind, we make things way worse than they really are. And I mean, everyone can attest to this. Have you ever done this before? Let me know in the chat below. Have you ever like had to have a conversation with one of your team members or anyone in your life. And then in your mind, it's this ping pong match of scenarios that could happen. Well, if she says that, I'm going to say that. If she says that, I'm going to say this. And you make this fake artificial fight in your mind about how it's going to play out. And then you get to the situation and you're kind of nervous. And then you have this conversation and you tell the person how you feel and what you want to change. And they're like, oh, yeah, no problem. I didn't even know that was a problem. No, I can do that 100% for you. And there's no argument. There's no problem, and you made this whole entire crazy scenario up in your head that you postponed this conversation for weeks or months when you could have solved the problem with a simple conversation months ago. I guarantee you everyone's been through that before. I've been through that before. And once you start realizing that you're not going to die from a conversation, it's going to be a lot easier to have that conversation. So, yeah, just have the conversation. James, next question.
We got. What's one thing that you stopped doing that actually made you a better leader?
Stop drinking. I stopped drinking for like 2 years. Like I might have a sip here and there, but I don't black out like I used to. I
Nick
was
used to party.
I was always a drinker. I love like if alcohol wasn't bad for you and it didn't deteriorate your brain and it didn't make me like a reckless human being, I would drink every day. It was fun. Like I loved drinking. And so I realized that the person, all the people I admired in business, one of the common things they had was they didn't get blacked out drunk. They didn't drink. And then I had to take a look at my life, like, all right, I'm not where I want to be at. What are some things that I'm doing that I can easily just remove from my life? Alcohol was one of them. And I would say that's one thing I stopped doing. I I never really slept in, to be honest with you. Yeah, I started like reading my goals every day. Yeah, I've always done that though. I would say alcohol was probably the one thing I stopped doing that gave me crystal clear focus on what's important. Become the man you admire and give him to the world. One of my coaches has had that quote, and he said that to me, and it's in my phone, like it's part of my morning routine. And so let me see. It is every morning at 4. I moved it to 5 a.m. So every morning at 5 a.m., this alarm goes off. I will create the man I admire and give him to the world. And then it opens up with my affirmations. You can't see that on that camera, but and then I read through this. I have a Google form that links to this, and then I fill out all of my goals, my gratitude, and everything else. And the man I admire doesn't drink. The man I admire goes to the gym. He works out. He's a good father. He's a good husband. He's a good leader. And so if you have to show up 100% of yourself, you can't do that hungover. So if you guys are struggling with where you're at right now and you think smoking a little weed here and there is gonna be okay at night, you're not gonna wake up fully 100%. James might disagree with me, but when it comes to alcohol, it's poison for your body. And I love wines. I love bourbons. And you have to look at the pain pleasure aspect of it. I will be more pleasurable without any brain damage or being 100% myself to play with my grandkids down the line than a little bit of fun at this party right now. And once you take a couple years off of alcohol, if you're struggling with it, you still have fun at a wedding. And there's some good replacements now. Like all the beers that are coming out are really decent. Like Guinness Zero is great. There's a company called James. What's the mushroom alcohol we have at the salon?
The Little Saints or
Yeah,
something?
Little Saints or something. Little Amber Saints, Little Saint
Something like
Amber.
that. Something Saints.
It's really good. Like you put that on ice, it's a refreshing drink and it like chills you out a little bit. So there's so many good drinks out there right now that you can substitute alcohol with. James, next question.
Um, uh, I bought the salon that I used to work at, and it's very tough to step into that leadership role because I still feel like one of the girls. What do I do?
Yeah, so this is a great question. You have to kill the stylist that you once were in every single facet of your life. You have to show up as the CEO, the leader, the entrepreneur. It's one of the hardest things we can do, especially when you buy a salon and your peers looked at you as their equal, which you're not. It's not that you're not equal. It's just that everything's on your shoulders now. So there's not an equal amount of responsibility. So yes, you're both human beings, but you're not really equal anymore. And you as the owner, you have to make decisions from the perspective of the leader and the owner now, not as the stylist. So it's important that you step truly into that role. And then you learn how to delegate, you learn how to communicate. It's not that you're better than anybody because leaders eat last. It's that you are now your peers who were your coworkers are now your clients. And so people where they make the biggest mistake when it comes to owning a salon or getting into business and having employees or a team, they forget that you do make money from your team, whether it's share rental, whether it's commission, whether they're every person on your team should be adding value to the company in one way, shape, or form, whether it's to buy back your time or whether it's to add revenue to your business. And you have to look at them as your clients because without them, you can't do the things you need to do as the visionary of that company. So it's your job to look at your clients who walk in that door to get their hair done as clients, obviously, and create raving fans out of them. The next thing you have to do is take a look at your team and you have to look at them as your clients too. And then how are you going to show up for them as if they are your clients and deliver on the promise that you made to be that salon owner? So if you can make that switch, I think it would change a lot of that relationship. And if you want more help with that, shoot me a DM me the word grow, and I will get in a conversation with you and either give you some good free resources I have or introduce you to the Level Up Academy where you can be around me, other salon owners, and get trainings 3 times a week where you're going to really excel as a leader and step into that role as the entrepreneur. James,
What are some good ways that you can reset boundaries after you've already let a lot slide?
it's called the culture realignment strategy. And so it's about having the interview process done again. So you just re-interview everybody and you reestablish the new floor, the new standard you're setting, and you do that in a group setting with everybody. Then you do it one-on-one with everybody. And this is a cycle that I've done numerous times throughout my career as an owner. It is as you learn new things and become a better owner in one area, sometimes other areas lack if you didn't delegate that responsibility to somebody else properly. And so you're going to have to get really good at, you know, going back to revisit things that were once working and finding out why it's not working anymore. And then taking a look at the people involved in it or the process involved in it. And that's typically going to be at your two issues: people problem or process problem. Did I put the wrong person in that position, or did I not truly pass off that process properly and teach it? Or has the process now not been evaluated for a long enough time where it needs to get reevaluated and readjusted again? And so, as an owner, if things are array right now, first thing you do is hit pause, because you got to stop the bleeding, then start the breathing, protect the wound, treat for shock. It's a ditty we had in the Marine Corps. And if you're bleeding right now, when I say bleeding, you're gonna be bleeding people because your culture is turning to shit. You're gonna be leaving. Like, people are gonna be leaving your salon. So you got to stop that bleeding right away. Have a meeting, establish new boundaries, new ground rules, have a whole new interview process. If this new way doesn't work for people, they have to go. And the people who stay are going to be very happy that they stayed. And that's when you start the breathing again. And so now you can take a breath of fresh air and start building your team with a new standard, with new core values, with this new structure that you have, and then everybody's aligned. So that's what you want to do. James,
That
don't forget to
actually,
shout out their name too, if you want, so they know who the answers to questions for them.
um, they got, that actually answered my next one. So hold on, I'm scrolling. It was how do you handle pushback when your team doesn't get on board with the new standards? Um,
Guys, they're not everyone's going to get on board with your new standards. You have to tell them why. Why are we making this change? I think as owners, we start drowning and we're like, oh shit, we got to make a change. We got to figure something out. But you don't give it enough time to let things like fully pan out. And so what happens is you take action on something, it doesn't work, but you only applied it for 2 weeks. Nothing's going to work after 2 weeks. And then you pivot and change. And you're trying all this new shit. Like, give something a long enough time to actually work, unless it's like destroying your business. But you have to give it enough time. So your team, like, if you're not communicating with them and telling them why you're making adjustments, they're going to be like, what the fuck is going on? So communication is so important.
Westwood, how do I deal with imposter syndrome as a barber? My coworkers and salon managers, I'm good and I have a lot of potential, but I just don't feel or see what they see in me.
That's good. Don't get rid of your imposter syndrome. Let it be fuel for you to become a better barber. The reason why Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, the greatest of the greats, always trained the way they did is because they had a level of perfection, professionalism, and they had standards that were so high that they really couldn't live up to. And so they had to work to become this person. And if they settled for average results, that imposter syndrome wouldn't really fully kick in. Now, understand that this happens to everybody who has a level of excellence they want to adhere to. If you have a lot of clientele that you're building and they love their haircuts, understand that you deserve this. Sometimes people are better, like, they get really good at cutting hair fast and they realize, wow, I built up a business in a matter of X amount of months and I'm fully booked, but I'm only charging $30. I should be charging 40. That's when that imposter syndrome kicks in. You got to take a look at your relationship with money. You got to take a look at, like, are you practicing like you should be? Are you doing the things required of you to be the best? And if you are, then just understand this is just a part of being great. Being great, you're always going to have to deal with a little certain level of imposter syndrome. And the people who don't have that, who don't feel a little bit like they're not living up to the standard that they envisioned, they set their standards too low, I feel. And so it gets to a certain point, once you put enough reps in, that the imposter syndrome sheds away. And because the habits that you have, they're so ingrained now because of your striving for excellence, compounded year after year after year, that it just becomes your identity at this point. You are just great. And so you just live by that standard. And so until it becomes your identity, you're going to feel a little bit of that imposter syndrome. And that's like, you talk to guys like Tony Robbins, right? And years ago, they thought he was like a snake oil salesman, and he was always trying to sell you something and gimmicks. They didn't realize what kind of strategist he was. And I've been to his business mastery, his UPWs, I've been to his programs, I have his courses. And the guy genuinely is a strategist. He genuinely cares. Like, I love Tony. And it's like all these people who don't know anything about him talk shit about him. And now he has nothing to prove anymore. He's already helped. I think he fed billions of people already, and he's done great things. But he still has this drive and fire behind him. Like, he's trying to prove somebody wrong, but he's not proving anybody wrong. He just has this new standard that's never going to leave him. And so when you take it on a smaller scale, like for cutting hair, that's going to happen to you eventually. And the best way to get to where you want to go as a barber or a stylist is teach somebody who isn't where you're at yet. And then you'll reciprocate that energy transfer, and you'll start realizing how great you are and how much you actually really do know by teaching someone who hasn't been to where you are right now.
So we got a couple. We got my man Samarth Gupta. I like community. Yeah, man, I like communication is key. I lost an entire business because I had to break. I had to break out with my partner. I could have avoided with communication. Surely. We have Linda Varadacom. I'm interviewing a stylist for a booth rental, and she has an assistant. How do I incorporate that into her booth rental?
I mean, she has an assistant. She's paying for her assistant, right? So if she's paying for her assistant and they're only using one chair, that's really on her. If you want to charge her more, if she's taking two chairs, then you could charge for the extra chair. But if she's going to use one space, I mean, that's really on her. Unless you put something in your contract, well, hey, with an assistant, you're gonna be taking up more. You're gonna be able to do more people, so you're doing more volume. You're gonna be using more stuff in the salon, and then you just add like a 20% price on top of your chair rental. I got to take a look at the numbers.
She said yes. I don't know what yes is to though. You said a lot of things.
Yeah, she's probably saying yes to the stylist is going to pay for the assistant.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
We got Samarth back on YouTube. How do I initiate convos that put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, but we know we have to have those conversations?
You just do it. You just have the conversation. Hey, can I talk to you for a second? I got something on my mind. And make sure you have a clear outcome like that you want to achieve with that. Like, and tell the person, all right, James, listen, you got time at 5:00. I want to talk to you. They're like, what do you want to talk about? Like, hey, when you start the conversation, like, James, all right, at the end of this conversation, I want clarity on this, 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 and this. And so there's a couple things I'm unsure of right now. I don't know exactly how motivated you are anymore in the salon. I don't know what kind of passion you got. And I just want to get clarity on a few different things. Because when we hired you on a team, like you said, that teamwork was important to you. You said you wanted to grow your career, and you said you wanted this. And at the end of this conversation, I just want to be on the same page about what's important to you and where you want to bring your career. And as long as we leave the conversation with clarity on those two questions, then we're good. And so you could take a 5-minute conversation, a 2-hour conversation, and condense it to 5 minutes based on just getting to the point. And so go into the conversation, and this works for anything, like any kind of conversation with anybody. What is the outcome I want from this conversation? Is it going to be win-win with this person? And if you have clarity on what it is you want to happen after this conversation, what's the result of this, then it's good. Then you just enter the conversation and let that person know what's the agenda. We, like I said before in the beginning of the call, when someone asked a very similar question, we make up the scenario way worse in our mind and our imagination than it really needs to be. Hope that helped.
Linda said, "Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate you."
You're welcome, Linda.
And that's all we got.
All right, cool. Guys, today's call was great, or today's live. So if you missed it, it's going to be on the podcast. Go to nickmirabella.com, hit the podcast button. It'll be on YouTube live as well. Make sure you subscribe to that. James, anything else we got to add today?
No, nothing.
We're good. All right,
We're
everyone.
good.
Thanks. Great questions today. See everybody tomorrow.